The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hey everybody, welcome to the PGN podcast, Parental Guidance Neglected. I am Regan Burns. This is my son, Jackson Burns. I don't know why I suddenly started talking this fast, but I'm going to try to maintain it for the entirety of the podcast.
This is the sped up episode.
We're under a tight time crunch today. Actually, I don't think we have anything. I just had some clients cancel with me, so I don't have anything till like 6 o'clock. So, but you've got to go ahead, Jackson. Go ahead and get your plug in. You've got some big podcast episode you're recording today, right? Like the big year end finale, or
Oh no, that's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Oh, never mind. I thought for some reason you'd probably want to pitch one of your countless other projects or podcasts that I'm not involved in. But I guess that's coming soon, as they say.
It is coming soon.
Coming soon. This is the PGN podcast, two generations, Gen X, Gen Z, talking movies and father-son stuff.
Father-stun.
Yeah, whatever comes up. We have been kind of sporadic with the episodes, but we feel like we're back on track for 2 weeks, and then it all goes down the toilet again because my son's taking off to France for 2.5 weeks. So we're cramming it all in here in the last couple of days of 2022. What do you think about the movies just in general, Jackson? I mean, next week is our best of the year list reveal. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling you were kind of disappointed overall with 2022. Coming off
2022 was a mixed bag. Because there was a you know what? I already started proactively, I guess, working on my year-end lists.
Right.
And there was a lot that I did like, but there was a lot more that I didn't.
That you didn't, right. Did you have a...
Yeah.
Now, we don't want to spoil anything because, of course, next week, our first show of the year, we will reveal our top 10 best films of the year. Did you have a hard time coming up with the 10? It's still a work in progress.
Yes.
There's still a couple films we have left to see that we might try to get in this week. So there's still a couple films that could sneak in. But are you finding yourself like scraping the barrel and going, am I really putting that in my top 10? Or was there like a...
let me just
don't
look
reveal
and refresh my
anything.
memory real quick. I'm not going to. I just want to look and reveal.
We're looking for a teaser. Something you could tease with your top 10 list. Like, this has been a labor of love or a labor of pain.
I'd say there was one that I was kind of like, all right, well, you know what? Does that really...
Yeah.
Is that really top 10 material?
Well, yeah. Well, you have to wait and see.
We'll see. There's still a couple more movies that I got to see, so...
Yeah. As well as me. We still... coming up... we'll just call it. Coming up today, we're going to take a look at the Netflix foreign film from Germany, a remake of the Academy Award-winning... Well, not really a remake, though. I read up a little bit on it. It's more of a... They like to say a retelling of the novel, All Quiet on the Western Front. We're also going to check in with Jackson's Pretentious Art Corner. He's been very busy. And we're going to get my review of Bones and All, and we're going to get Jackson's review of the first 10 minutes of the film and then the last 15 because he fell asleep during it. I wonder if that's an indication of...
In my defense, it was Christmas morning. It was very comfortable on the couch.
Yeah.
And I dozed.
Yeah. And, there you have it. But we're going to jump right into things.
And we're forgetting the big one, too.
I was going to say, we're going to jump right into things. We saw probably the last big motion picture release of the year. I don't think anything's coming out on New Year's Day. If it is, it's just some films that are opening wider that have been smaller. But the last big movie of 2022, Damien Chazelle, director of La La Land, First Man, Whiplash, 10 Cloverfield Lane. A lot of buzz around the film.
He did 10 Cloverfield Lane?
He did, yeah. Mm-hmm. He's been all over the place. Look at you.
Really?
Yeah, well, you should do your research, Jackson. Some of us on this show.
That's so weird.
Some of us like to prepare. So, his big new movie, Babylon, opened this holiday weekend. Brad.
He did not do 10 Cloverfield Lane. What are you talking about?
Yes, he did. Who directed 10 Cloverfield
Lane? No, Dan Trachtenberg.
Who produced it? Who produced it?
J.J. Abrams.
Okay, and who wrote it?
Definitely not Damien Chazelle. It is Dan Trachtenberg. Oh, he did write on it, but it was mostly Dan Trachtenberg. He was on the writing room.
Yeah, well,
I wouldn't call that him doing it though.
Well,
that was like
it's
not one of his films.
Is it on his resume?
It's on his resume, but it wasn't like his movie.
Was he
it wasn't like he wrote, directed it.
Like part of the creative
team?
Okay,
but okay.
He,
fair enough.
He started as a writer. He's now a director. Babylon is the movie. Some people are calling it Damien Chazelle's love letter to silent film and old Hollywood. I think we're going to discuss that a little bit, whether or not it's a love letter or maybe a warning. Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, newcomer Diego Calva, who coincidentally, Jackson, cinematographer, the actor who played Manny, the lead in Babylon.
Really? He DP'd it?
No, he didn't DP this. He is a cinematographer. He went to school, got a degree in cinematography, and has been working both behind the camera and in front of it throughout his career.
Oh, well, what has he done? Look it up.
A bunch of stuff in Mexico. It's all Mexican films that I have not particularly heard of. Gene Smart, Tobey Maguire make some cameos, some other cameos. This is a much longer than I thought. It was funny. I started watching it one evening and got about an hour into it and then had to go to bed because, I'm old. I'm in my 50s, and that's just the way I work. And talked to my son Jackson the next day, and I said, yeah, I'm about halfway through it. And he's like, well, where are you guys in it? And I said, we're at this scene. He's like, you're not even close to halfway through it. And I was like, oh, no way. Sure enough, this is right up there with the Avatar running time. It's like just around 3 hours, I think.
Yeah, it's like 4 minutes shorter than Avatar was, I think.
The movie follows the careers and paths of several different people in Hollywood back in the time when silent films were huge, but then made the transition to talkies. There's Brad Pitt, kind of the Errol Flynn of the silent films, who has a bit of a tougher time making a transition to the later part of his career. There's the up-and-coming Margot Robbie, who's the wild party girl, who may or may not make it big in Hollywood. And then the young, hungry assistant, the young lad from Mexico, who very much wants to just be a part of making movies. It tells several different tales. They all intertwine and in many ways kind of end all in the same way. Before we get into my complete thoughts of the movie, Jackson, your first takeaways from Babylon.
Okay. I'm going to try to be nice here.
There's always a pause.
So I went and saw this movie with me and 3 of my friends.
Yes.
A couple nights back. I saw it in the theater.
Right.
And it wasn't super crowded, but there was definitely people and there's people in there.
Okay.
And the first, I don't think this is a spoiler, but the first scene of the movie involves a shot of an elephant's butthole pooping.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that was the moment where I went, this isn't going to be for me.
Yeah. You're not into elephant excrement, is what you're saying?
No, this movie had a lot of shock comedy where it was a lot of the humor relied on the grotesque, a lot of like
I think within the first
pooping
hour,
and peeing and vomiting.
In the first half hour, we get someone peeing on someone. We get elephant excrement. We've got graphic sex orgy scenes, and tonally, it was a shock to me. There's certainly nothing about the trailers did I see any of that coming.
You guys really missed out on the theater experience because there was a lot of moments that was just like, I will always remember this movie for the way that I saw it in the theater. Because first of all, the elephant scene happened and everyone was just like, oh! Like at the same time, everyone at the same time just went like, oh my god! Like what's going on?
Right. Now, Damien Chazelle
there was that, and then
Damien Chazelle must have known it was going to elicit that. I mean, again, this happens within the first 1 minute of the film.
I think it's just an interesting tone setter. Is because I don't think anyone was expecting it, and it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But there was moments like that. There was someone started snoring in my theater about halfway through, pretty loudly for about 30 minutes, which was kind of annoying. But the moment that I'll never forget is that I have a lot of issues with this movie, but one of I think its biggest perpetrators is that it doesn't know when to stop.
Right.
There was many moments where I went, okay, this is the end. Okay, this is the end.
Oh,
okay,
there's at least 5 endings. I thought for sure
and the way that it actually ends is okay. It's a choice.
Right.
I think that okay, you know that there's a scene in Babylon where Brad Pitt's character is watching an audience react to his movie.
Yes.
And everyone starts laughing, and it's like a bad moment for him.
Yes.
That happened in my theater. Yeah. When Avatar came on the screen, and we all kind of went, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah.
There was a little bit of...
It's a very... the ending... again, I don't want to give it away for people who are going to see Babylon. It is a bit of a montage of the history of cinema. Which, again, it's like the 15th ending.
It is,
of the film.
but the choices were so strange to me.
Yeah.
And then there was, when the movie...
Some of them were and some of them weren't.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I recognize Indiana Jones. And I was like, yeah, of course. I mean, but like, when the movie, the credits finally rolled, the audience kind of collectively went, okay. Right. Like it was kind of like we made it, as opposed to like that was a
maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he's like, I want audiences to be sitting there and help each other get through this.
Maybe so, but I've been reading a lot of reviews, and I found one that I'll share it with you when this is over because it's really long and I don't want to read the whole thing. But
give me a good quote. Is there a quote that stands out?
There was two points that I brought up, and one of them is that this is a movie that tries to portray film as a high art. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's Damien Chazelle's love letter to cinema, as we see from the ending and then the multiple nods to like the beauty of cinema. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it makes its inception feel like one big joke and one big mistake, where nothing is taken seriously and everybody is kind of, drunk and on top of things. And sure, I'm sure there were people like that, but even the early silent days had lots of auteurs who were really pushing to turn this into the higher form that we know it to be now. Cinema wouldn't have been the way it was if it weren't for people who were pioneering, and to try to make a love letter that doesn't encapsulate really a moment of that, besides just the mistakes, like the accidental beautiful moments, like Brad Pitt being drunk and then pulling out a big performance, I think was a bit of a slight, and it made his message a little muddled. That was the first thing. The second thing was that this movie feels like a lot of different movies put into one. Mm-hmm. We have the scene from Boogie Nights. We have the Wolf of Wall Street parties. We have kind of like that Cinema Paradiso, like feeling of seeing a movie for the first time, almost like Fabelmans-esque.
Yes.
We have, what's it called? Singing in the Rain with the silent film scene, which, by the way, was my favorite part of the whole movie, was that scene where they're trying to figure out how to use sound for the first time. I thought it was hilarious. I was laughing my ass off. I loved that.
The one with the retakes with Margot Robbie and the guy.
Yes, exactly. The sound guy and all that. And it just felt like that, but there didn't seem to be a connection. And with that, it kind of, the tone was really muddied. We went from a pretty dark, I don't want to spoil it, but probably the darkest scene of the movie to lighthearted laughing, which I know you read in a review was kind of part of it, but I didn't really get that for myself. And so overall, I felt like I was just kind of getting dragged through, and not to mention, I mean, I haven't even brought up the one scene that everyone seems to be talking about, which is the Tobey Maguire sequence. Yes, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to get into it, because any mention of what goes on in that scene is going to have you shaking your head going, what is going on?
It is insane. It is almost like we stepped out of one movie and we stepped into a surreal art house
Gaspar Noé, I don't even know. It was so
this movie takes the craziest, weirdest, it's surreal, because suddenly you're like, wait a minute. It almost, for me, it made me question, has everything that's come beforehand been kind of an exaggerated dream sequence? Because this couldn't be real. again, I don't want to give anything away, but it has to do with the underbelly of Los Angeles, and you're like, I'm pretty sure that this is beyond.
The one thing that I will say about Babylon, because I love Damien Chazelle. I loved Whiplash. I liked La La Land a lot. I never saw First Man, but
First
Whiplash
Man,
is a
very boring film.
I've heard. I've heard it was. I also have heard that Damien Chazelle has kind of an issue with historical accuracies. Like I think he made Neil Armstrong pretty depressed in First Man with pretty much not much of a historical basis on that.
Right.
And so the one thing that I'll say to kind of wrap up my thoughts is that when the movie ended, me and my friends went out into the parking lot, and we sat there for about an hour and just aired our grievances because we were all pretty pissed. It just felt like there was just a lot of like, okay, wait, but what was? Oh my god! Now I'm just like remembering things as I go along.
Right.
There's a scene where God, I don't want to spoil anything. There's a scene where a black actor has to do a pretty upsetting portrayal on stage, and the only thing I could think of when watching that was Damien Chazelle had to ask him to do that in real life. And I know that obviously that actor can make his own decisions, but at the same time, there's a lot of money involved and stuff, and it felt weird to me watching that. It felt really gross, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that inclusion.
I'm gonna challenge you on that because the actor in real life is playing a character in the film, and that character is in a situation that many actors in that time might have been. I kind of equate it in some ways to if I got cast as a slave owner in a film and the director said, listen, I want you to whip this African-American man in this scene, obviously faking in some way, and come up with the most vicious and vile stuff. This is what I want you to say, because that's what actually happened. I don't think, as uncomfortable as it would make me, and I would have to go to a certain place in my head to just be someone that vile or do something that I personally, outside of the world of movie making, I would feel so horrific doing. When you're doing it on film, I'm not really sure why that actor who played Sidney, I forget he was the horn player, and he's asked to do something to, shall we say, make himself more black and urban on film. And I guarantee that probably actually happened back then. I'm not saying it's not historically accurate. I think, but what directors ask, right thing. Look, Quentin Tarantino has written characters that are completely deplorable, in his defense, and sometimes he's played them himself. I mean, he says some of the most racist stuff in Pulp Fiction. If you go back and play the few scenes that Quentin Tarantino's in, he uses the N-word more than Samuel Jackson has in any film he's ever done. And kudos to him for saying, look, if there's a racist character in this movie, I'm going to play it. So I in the world of film, I think sometimes you have to, as a filmmaker, if you're writing and you're being true to a story and you're writing about vile people or people who did or still do things that you personally or they personally, like, you can look at your director and each other and go, this is horrible, but it's still part of the story, and we're not being true to the story if we don't say it or do it.
I understand that, and I just think that for me, it just comes down to the scenario in the film is a little too similar to that conversation might have been like in real life, where it's like, hey, I mean, this is something that I'm going to ask you to do, and if you don't want to do it, then I'll give it to someone else. And then
I would
no money. And
I would say that's art imitating life. But
I would say so too, and I just say that I personally could never ask anybody to do that, and it would make me wildly uncomfortable to do so. And I just don't know if that was Damien Chazelle's story.
I would imagine that the actor who played him, and I apologize, he's one of the best performances in the film. We should look him up.
He is the best performance in the film.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
He's really.
Him and Manny go pretty.
He's really, really good. I have to imagine he read the script long before they got to the part where they were on the set. I mean, it's not like he showed up he knew that was the scene in the film. He'd been cast. He probably read the scene.
I know, and I just think that, like I said, me personally, it just I wasn't watching that going, that's the character doing it. I was watching that going, the actor had to do that in real life, and I think that a lot of the people that I was with also agreed, where it took them out of the story, where instead of thinking about what was happening to the character, it was more about what was happening in real life, and watching that and going, oh, damn.
I thought that was one of the most interesting scenes in the film.
But that I did too. But that just could. It just was a me thing where I was watching it and going, "Geez, I just don't know if I could ever ask anybody to do that as a filmmaker. Right. I don't know if I could ever ask anybody to do that."
I guess all I'm saying is I don't think the filmmaker asked him to do that. I think that script was sent out to a ton of different actors, and they auditioned and they read it beforehand, and there probably was like they knew they were going to do it. There wasn't that moment in filming where we go, "Listen, I had an idea." This.
No, I know that. That's not what I'm saying either. Right. I'm just saying that you still had to. Damien Chazelle, as a person who is not black, had to approach someone to do this, and I could never do that.
We're speaking so cryptically because nobody, unless you saw the movie, knows what we're talking about.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that it wasn't for me.
Gotcha.
It made me wildly uncomfortable, as it should, but for the wrong reasons.
I got you. What did you think of Margot Robbie in this? Obviously, she's the girl on the poster. Her character is, the main, if not one of the main characters of the film. In many ways, she's kind of guides a lot of these actors and the other characters as to what's going to happen. What did you think of Robbie? She's kind of the hot girl now.
I think that Margot Robbie was asked to do a very similar performance to that of her performance in Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh, I thought Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn, honestly. They're both very similar. Yeah. And in that same review, the guy who wrote it brought up the fact that she is very often asked to do the same performance, and I think that's upsetting, because I think that she has more range than that. And I think that one of, I would say, the most poorly written lines of the whole movie comes from her, and it's not her fault, but there's this moment where she's doing a film and she has to cry on cue. Mm-hmm. And the director goes, how do you do that? How do you cry on cue like that? And she goes, well, I just think of home.
Right.
Which is not really, doesn't come back, A. Yeah. And B, I think that it once again is this idea of mystifying these early years of cinema as more of accidents as opposed to people having actual talent. Yeah. The reason that actresses and actors, I'm sure as an actor are able to cry on cue is because they're talented. They're really talented actors, and they've trained for years to do these things, or they just have a natural knack for it. And I think that the line it's a weak throwaway that has less power than I think Chazelle intended it to.
I think Margot Robbie she's a really good actress. I mean, she is so good in I, Tonya. And she really
she's fantastic in I, Tonya.
That just put her on the map, and it seems like for whatever reason, since then, I mean, I look at I don't find her memorable in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
In Hollywood.
What's Amsterdam was nothing to get excited about. I mean, she's fine. Harley Quinn, I think, is kind of it's okay. It's a little bit cartoonish. I was disappointed with her in this. I feel I have to agree with you. I feel like she's a really good actress who, for some reason, the performances are starting to not stand out as much.
I think it's just that directors saw her in Wolf of Wall Street or in I, Tonya and went, okay, she can play sexually provocative New Jersey girl.
Yeah.
And then I think that they just keep typecasting her, and it really makes me upset because I feel like she has a lot more range than that. I feel like if someone gave her a chance to do something different, she could really make something work. But it's just, again and again, people keep going back to the same Scorsese direction, and it's annoying.
Yeah. What'd you think of Mr. Pitt? Brad Pitt?
I liked Brad Pitt a lot in this, actually.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I liked his performance a lot. I thought that the scene between him and the film critic was one of the best of the film, of the movie.
One of the best.
One of the strongest.
Here's my big problem with Babylon Jackson. What I liked about this film, I loved. I loved that scene between Brad Pitt and Gene Smart. I actually really enjoyed the performance of the horn player and his kind of arc. I thought there were some the scene with the sound, the first time they're doing sound, as over the top as it was, and felt very different in tone in many ways. It got to this level of insanity. I could have watched that movie and been super happy. Yeah, it was done really well. It's weird because when I watched the first 40 minutes of the film or so, I was really disconnected. It was hard for me to go back to this. I'm like, I'm going to finish it. I'm going to be fair, but I did not care for anything right out of the gate with the film. The crazy party, I didn't care for the making of the film. They were all shooting 15 silent films in the desert with different locales. I just was not engaged at all. But when I went back, there's real gold nuggets in here that I enjoyed, and I'm not saying it made me love the film. Look, just as much as I get sucked in with a great scene between Gene Smart and Brad Pitt, I would get sucked right out with Tobey Maguire and alligators. I mean, it was a real struggle for me. And
I guess my biggest question,
go ahead,
because this was my biggest caveat with the movie, is what did you think about the ending?
I didn't care for the ending. It came out of nowhere.
I thought it was a little self-righteous, and I thought that it was a little bit.
It came out of nowhere.
Because it also, God, I'm trying to spoil, but this isn't really a spoiler. But before the movie ends, we get a kind of almost like montage of like everything that happened in the movie, like a 1 minute compilation of like movie recap, and it was kind of like.
Yeah, there was weird little
I don't know why
flashes of images from earlier in the film, like, oh, here was Brad Pitt earlier. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I just saw that.
What'd you think of the rattlesnake scene?
I didn't care for it.
Here's the thing. It's like he threw everything up. It's like he said, let's do everything. I don't know if there's all together, but it's all these little mini stories. Everything was like I
wanted to follow. One of the most interesting dynamics was Margot Robbie and I'm forgetting her name what was her name in the movie? God,
the Asian woman.
Yes,
her girlfriend.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had really great chemistry together, and I was like, God, I can't wait to see where that goes.
Yeah, she was a great character, and then when she leaves to go off to Europe, you're like, I want to know what happens to her. She's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
It's tough for me because he obviously is trying to do everything, and sometimes you go, hey man, A for effort. You threw everything at the wall, and some of it stuck, and some of it didn't. I'm curious where your takes are. I'm just going to kind of discuss the elephant in the room here just a second, just to get off. I mean, Jackson and I had a little bit of talk last week about how both of us, him and I, we just have to be a little careful about how we talk about some of these films and the people that have worked. Obviously, this is a movie a lot of people worked on, and we don't want to ever come on here and completely slam something that someone's put their heart into. I think that what it is that Jackson and I are such huge fans of film that we're so passionate about our opinions that we want everything to be really good. And obviously, that's never going to happen in the world. And by the way, there's some people who love this movie, Babylon. Like, it seems to be a love.
My roommate, it's his favorite movie ever made.
Ever made. See what I mean? So
yeah, and he loves it. We actually called him after seeing it, and we're like, I'm so curious why this is like your boo, man.
Well, that's what's great about art, is that it affects everybody differently. It would be a pretty boring world if we all loved Jaws and we all hated Empire Strikes Back, and then we'd be like, well, there's that. But with that said, this is not a movie that I would ever slam. I really, really enjoyed parts of it, but
yeah,
the bad does outweigh the good here, I think.
I think I disagree with you that this is a movie that I would slam, and here's why. I'm going to come back to this one more time. Is because the core of this movie is supposed to be showing the real, like, it's supposed to be kind of a realist, more defined depiction of Hollywood than, let's say, Sing in the Rain was, right? Sing in the Rain is very, like, mystical, it's a musical, and this is supposed to be more of, like, the gritty, like, uncensored, this is what Hollywood was like.
Right.
But at the same time, it tries to go for this angle of how beautiful the art of movie making is. And while, of course, I agree with that, it, again, every scene that involves making a movie seems like a a handful of just lucky accidents.
Yeah.
And it really takes away from, at least for me as a filmmaker, I watch that and I go, what happened to, there's not a single depiction of what I would consider to be an artist who is working to make the art better. It's people who are hungry for fame. And not to say that Hollywood doesn't have that, but to completely discount the silent era as just a handful of Americans running wild in a desert is, I think, a little bit oversimplified.
This is what I took away. I took away that somewhere in Damien Chazelle's mind, all those movies of that era are so fake and glitzy and make life look like rainbows and unicorns and people break into song. And that's the facade that people escape to when they see a movie. That it's so completely over the top in its sweetness, its saccharine, its depiction of history, whatever it is, that this movie, Babylon, is going to be the exact opposite behind the scenes. Where behind the scenes it was ruthless, debaucherous, but we're going to take it to the extreme. Where the films go to the extreme one way, in this extreme, the behind the scenes is orgies and underground torture chambers and, actors dying in the hot box of the cameras and fans killing each other because so-and-so got married for the 18th, 19th time. So I feel like in some ways Babylon is like, it is the polar opposite of the fake in front of the camera. This is the fake behind the camera. That's kind of what I got. A little bit. Because none of this it can't be real.
So.
It's too over the top. There's rattlesnakes and elephants and alligators and
the Tobey Maguire scene.
That whole scene. It's obviously it's like the counter of what you see in Singing in the Rain. Where
I also think that one of my things is that, obviously I just took a history of film class, and we went over the silent era pretty extensively because that was like a big moment, and it's like whatever, film history, whatever.
Right.
And I have a friend who loves silent films. He just like loves them, and I was like, I don't really get it. It seems so disconnected from where we are now as a people and as an art. And he said to me, I'll never forget this. He goes, the thing that's so interesting about silent films is that when movies started being made, there was no rules. Like, no one knew that, like, this is how you shoot a movie, because no one had ever done moving pictures. Right. Even with photography, you still had rules from, painting you could take from that. With filmmaking, it was almost a whole new medium. And so it was almost, the magic of silent films came with the idea of, we have nothing to go off of. Like, let's just go with that and run. Mm-hmm. And that just completely, this just sucked the magic out of it, where it's just like this mechanical machine. And I'm not saying it's not accurate, because I'm sure that there are accuracies, but like you said, he's riding the line between fantasy and reality, and for me, we're at this weird hybrid where I don't really understand what if this is supposed to be a historical documentation or if this is supposed to be an overdramatic.
No, it's definitely
recreation.
It's 100% an overdramatized. You didn't have.
But I don't.
You didn't have parties like that. That didn't exist.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, and I think that's what upsets me is because I'm never a big fan of, like, for instance, Blonde. The movie Blonde that came out this year, the Marilyn Monroe one, that was supposed to be an over dramatized film about her life, about what could have been.
Right.
And this felt like the same thing, and that never sits well with me because I always go, but that was a real thing. Like, these were real people, and these are real things. And when you mix that fantasy with real things that happened, like the scene with the trumpet player that we talked about that was super uncomfortable for me to watch, like, that was a real thing that happened. And when you mix up those real events with these big over dramatic things, then it's like, well, what was real and what wasn't? And it almost discounts those real moments. And that's, I think, where the disconnect came from me, besides the ending that I was really upset with.
Here's what I will say, and to his credit, because I think it deserves it. One, it is a film I'm still thinking about, and that's not always the case with many films. Like, there are.
I would agree. I am still thinking about this movie.
And that makes it somewhat successful. The second thing I will say is, we've been doing this show for about a year now. I think we've talked about this movie longer than we have any other. We're
no, I think so too.
And that you can take everything else aside. You can go, yeah, but it sure got you talking a heck of a lot more than A Man Called Otto or. Or Plane.
What did you think about the score?
It's funny
because this is now. I mean, Justin Horowitz, who did the score, came and talked to my school when they screened this, and I didn't get to see it, but everyone said he was great to talk with, and he's worked with Chazelle on all his movies now. They're like buddy.
I absolutely love the music. Anytime the band came on, I absolutely loved it. I know that your mother mentioned she had a problem with it because she felt like it was either lifts or very too similar to La La Land, but I've only seen La La Land once. I can just tell you the music.
I wasn't the biggest fan. I think that just knowing, I mean, I love the music for Whiplash. I love the music for La La Land too, and I think that this was definitely a weaker moment from Justin Horowitz. But I mean, that's not. It just felt a little repetitive, and I think that. But I also think that a lot of that can be attributed to just the runtime of the movie, and so the kind of reoccurring, music notes, they kind of drill into your brain after 3 hours and 10 minutes. But that's just my take.
Yeah. I think the only.
What are you giving this? Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the only Golden Globe nomination this got was Margot Robbie in a comedy, which again, hey, listen, I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know how you make. Is it a comedy? Yes. Is it a drama? Yes. Is it a fantasy? Yes. Is it a musical? A little bit.
I would have nominated Manny or the trumpet player. I'm forgetting his name in the movie, but I would have nominated both of those guys before her, to be honest. But
I think maybe they were struggling in that category because I just don't think it's Margot Robbie's best. But again, she definitely gives it 110%. If there's anyone committed, that girl is. She is 100% committed to this. I really want to start.
No, for sure.
I just wish I had gotten so many Harley Quinn things. This is where I stand with Babylon. Again, what I loved. What I did not care for, I did not. I'm a big fan of, like, if it's confusing, I kind of check out. I wasn't confused. It was just, why are we going this? And the tone changed so much. But man, Brad Pitt and Gene Smart have great scenes together. There are really nice moments with Diego Calva. Some of the lighting is the scene where she walks off at the end in the street. I thought was beautifully shot, and I remember the music being perfect for it. It's a movie with gold nuggets if you can filter through all the elephant shit and the vomiting and the piss. I'm giving Babylon a C-.
Okay. While I do agree with you that it is good to be talking this long about a movie, I think that in the context that I am talking about it, oftentimes I would I would never want someone to be. If I make a movie and you're airing your grievances for an hour outside of the theater in a car, I think that's different from kind of mulling over the nuances. Gotcha. As much as I do love Damien Chazelle and very much respect him as a filmmaker, I think that this was a really muddled and confusing portrayal of what could have been a really interesting topic and conversation. I think that if he had gone into this with more of a realist mind, I would have enjoyed this a lot more. And I think that if he had stuck to maybe not taken as much inspiration from other films, because there was just a lot of moments where I was like, God, I feel like I've seen this. Yeah. I would have liked it a lot more as well. And so for that, Babylon's going to get a 2 out of 10 from me.
I smelled it too. I know you. I know your number. Like, I just knew it was a 2 out of 10. I was just like, I could have gotten that for you. It's not doing well at the box office. It is a very long sit. But obviously,
I think I have two things to attribute that for. I think it's the runtime. I think that a lot of people just don't want to sit through a 3 hour 10 minute movie.
Yeah.
And I think that B, I think there's just been so many movies about movies this year that people are almost burnt out.
Yeah.
We've now got The Fabelmans, we've got Empire of Light, and now Babylon.
Right. Yeah, you're true. You're correct. You're correct. And by the way, you still have to see Empire Light, because out of those 3. You know what? I don't know. Maybe you won't like Empire Light as much as I do, but it's definitely, I think, the best out of the 3.
I want to see it, but I'm pissed at myself because now it's not in theaters anymore, and so I can't see it on the big screen, which blows, because that's like, it's Roger Deakins, and it's gonna. I mean, I'll watch it at home, but I know it's not gonna be the same, and that kind of sucks for me.
Yeah. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That's the last big film of the year. Again, Jackson and I, we talked about this. It's it's tough. We have such visceral reactions to movies, but we're both going to kind of take a deep breath before we come in.
And I respect Damien Chazelle a lot as a filmmaker. I think he's done some great work. I think that he has, this one just sucked for me because I was just like, damn, I really like your stuff, and I'm just like watching this.
You know what it is sometimes.
Unfold.
You know what I think it is sometimes, Jackson, too, is that I think just the critic in all of us, because we're all critics, whether you do it on a podcast or you do it at a party or you do it on a book or you do it with your family. Sometimes it's the reactions can be, we're just expecting so much, the disappointment. Like, I really, really, really was excited for The Fabelmans. And then when it turned out to be a really average film, at least for me, it was like, you almost are more mad at it than you are.
It's a gut punch. Yeah, you're like, oh, damn, that could have been so much better.
It could have been so much better, but you put it, you're so mad that movie didn't live up to what you thought it could be, or at least you personally wanted it to be, that you immediately go throw it in the dregs with, that straight to video horror flick that, was made on a shoestring. And because you're like, these people have money, they've got a hold. I mean, it looks beautiful. Why couldn't it have? Or the screenplay's so good. Why did he shoot it that way? I hate it that way. So, as we move into 2023, Jackson and I have made the decision to try to find the glass half full when we can. But when it's empty, it's empty.
Yeah.
When it's empty,
it's empty. It's empty.
And that's what movies coming out in January and February are for. With that said, it is the PGN podcast, father and son talking movies. I feel like we're kind of on the same page with Babylon. I think I gave it a little more credit than you did, which is fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'll just go ahead very quickly. Jackson, why did you fall asleep during the movie Bones and All? Were you tired or were you bored?
No, okay, I'm trying to recall what happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie real quick, because I don't remember that much.
For those who don't know, Bones and All, a smaller art house film. It may or may not still be in some theaters. It's Timothée Chalamet's reunion with the director Luca Guadagnino, who did Call Me by Guadagnino, thank you. Who did Call Me by Your Name, as well as newcomer Taylor Russell from Netflix's Lost in Space. It tells the tale of what I guess you could say is vampires, but they're not. They're what they call eaters.
He did Lost in Space?
She did. She was Jane, Taylor Russell, the young girl.
Got it.
Plays Marin. Basically tells the tale that amongst us, there are people who must and have an overwhelming need and desire to eat flesh of humans, preferably ones that are still alive or just passing. It's a strange, odd love story. It's got a couple very, very good supporting performances. One from Academy Award winner Mark Rylance, who won for Bridge of Spies. He's in everything now. And Michael Stuhlbarg, who was also played Timothée Chalamet's dad in Call Me by Your Name.
Oh, he's in that?
Mm-hmm. You slept through that part. Yeah,
I love him. He's great.
He's got a cameo in this film. Him and Mark Rylance are fantastic in this. Unfortunately, they are not in a lot of it. Most of it is Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell seeking food or resisting food or falling in love. Jackson, what did you think about the first 10 minutes of Bones and All and the last 15 minutes of Bones
I missed a lot of the movie. I liked the ending a lot. I know that. I liked the ending a lot. I thought that was very creative.
Very graphic.
Missed a lot of context, for sure.
Yeah.
Could have used a little more with that movie. Yeah. Probably understand that ending, but I liked Mark Rylance a lot. I thought he was... Mark Rylance is so good.
He is really so good. Yeah.
Yeah, such a strong actor. I mean, he's been as much as I wasn't a big fan of Don't Look Up. I mean, he was the best part of that movie in my opinion. I mean, he was the best part of Bridge of Spies in my opinion. He's just great. So I love seeing him. As far as the intro bit, I thought it was interesting, although I don't think I was as grabbed as I would have liked to. But I didn't fall asleep because of the movie. I was just tired, and I was just really comfortable, and it was just like a tough situation, you know?
Yeah. Well, I will let you know, Jackson, you didn't miss all that much.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people have been loving this.
It's a Romeo and Juliet story that, I don't know, maybe my generation, maybe the teen angst of eating.
Yeah.
Timothée Chalamet, good actor, just still hasn't won me over yet.
Really?
No, not yet. Again, fine in Dune. Call Me by Your Name, fine. These are.
Did you like Call Me by Your Name?
I thought it was fine. I think at the time I gave it like a
so
C plus average. It's just
It
didn't. And again, I can look at all those films and go, good films. They're just not resonating with me. I don't know. He's not quite hitting the mark with me. I also thought Taylor Russell might be a little bit out of her league on this one a bit. I thought she was fine. A little stronger in the second half, I think, when she kind of comes into her own. But an interesting story. Again, loved Mark Rylance, who's not in enough of it.
Yeah.
Michael Stuhlbarg is so creepy in this as an eater that they run into in their cross-country journeys, and kind of has an interesting twist in there. But unfortunately, the movie overall kind of hit just slightly below the belt for me. So much like Babylon, I'm giving it a C-. So there you have it.
Okay.
And we won't have you rate it. Because
do you think it's a little? I want to know your take on this. Do you think it's a little weird that Luca Guadagnino is doing a cannibal movie like a year after Armie Hammer was outed as a cannibal? The guy from Call Me by Your Name.
That is a little crazy.
Do you think it's a coincidence, or do you think that there was he was like, you know what, this will make a good story?
Yeah, they're on set one day, and Armie Hammer's just like, God, I could eat a foot right now. And he's like, "Are you serious?" Like, no, I really could. I just got an idea for my next movie. We are all eaters. Well,
I was also just real quick. I was looking at his filmography. Did you watch the Suspiria remake?
I didn't see the original Suspiria.
I didn't either.
I didn't see either one.
I didn't either.
I was
just curious if you had seen
those.
Those
are kind of dark horror, artsy films, right? The Suspiria movies.
Yeah, I just know Tom York did the score for the new one, so I was curious.
You know me. I check out on the arty stuff a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It didn't look that good anyways, in my opinion.
Yeah. And speaking of art films, we like to do a little thing here every once in a while called Jackson's Pretentious Art Corner, where he likes to see a few films that have come and gone, but are considered masterpieces by him and 4 other people. Or maybe not. No, he actually picks some good ones sometimes.
Yeah.
So, Jackson, in your last week of school and your first time back when I'm not around forcing you to fall asleep during Bones and all, what have you been catching up on?
Yeah, so, I mean, since I've moved out from school, I don't have like a library to pick DVDs from.
Mm-hmm.
At least I thought so, because I went to my local library and they actually have a pretty good selection. So I took some time to pick out a couple movies from there, and I grabbed A History of Violence, the David Cronenberg movie starring Viggo Mortensen.
And William Hurt, correct? Ed Harris?
He's in it a little bit, yeah. But his wife is in it more. I can't remember who plays his wife, but
Maria Bella.
Ed Harris is also in it as well.
Yeah,
it might be. And then also Gaspar Noé's movie. You guys might remember Gaspar Noé for doing Enter the Void.
Yeah.
His movie Climax, which I'll start with Climax.
Okay.
You would like this more than Enter the Void, but I also don't think you would like it. I think it's a lot shorter. It's an hour 30.
Okay. Well, we're off to a good start.
And it's similar in that a lot of it is shot in really long one takes, but it's not like one big shot as it was in Enter the Void. The story for this one, it's a French film. Almost all the actors are professional dancers, and it follows a dance troupe after a week of practicing when they finally finish doing their like routine or whatever, and they have a big celebration, and someone has spiked the punch bowl with acid, and they all find out after it's too late. And it's kind of about the events that follow and how it kind of breaks down each person to the more like core version of themselves. So good. Oh my God, it's so good. Oh, he's so good. The cinema. First of all, he DP'd it, and it just looks incredible. It just looks incredible.
I bet it's got different
the
colored
style
lights
choices are fantastic. The dances are really fun to watch. I mean, there's a lot of moments where it opens with this almost like 8-minute long, just like wonder of them dancing, and it's really great. And you kind of learn about their personalities through the different styles of dances.
Now, what year did this come out?
This is going to be. I have the DVD right here. I'll tell you right now. It came out in It doesn't really say. Let me look it up. I want to say 2009.
Okay.
No, 2018. Sorry, 2018. So it's pretty recent.
A few years ago. Okay.
Yeah. And it's really great. The film actually opens with a series of interviews of each of the dancers talking about why they love dance, and I think it's really it was just so good. I think this is a really solid movie. Disturbing for sure,
right?
But it's really, really good. If you have an hour 30 to spare and you're a fan of dance or acid,
acid.
Check this movie out.
Here's where would you say that this film, like Enter the Void, is kind of a meditation? Is there because I felt like Enter the Void was like a very, very long meditation almost. Like I felt
this is a lot more go. It's a lot more sped up, I would say. It's a little bit faster. It's more of like it's I don't know. I don't know if it really has like a deeper meaning. I think it's more of just like let's just see what happens when we throw all these different people into a room and have them take acid and watch them just like delve into the madness that is that.
At any point, does an elephant shit on the camera, or is
no?
No,
that does not happen.
Okay,
actually,
okay.
so
Well, maybe I'll
already. Yeah.
Okay, if you still have the DVD, maybe I'll.
I don't. Yeah, I still don't think you would enjoy this, but I think you would. I think you would like it more, and I hope that it would give you a bit of a better appreciation.
Would
for Gaspar.
anyone from my generation like this film, or is this a Gen Z film?
I think it depends.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of really great universal moments, but I think a lot of it is also.
Would your mother like this film?
No. She would listen.
You debated. You were like, you give me half a second. You're like, well, no. Your mother just went, no.
No. I think she would think it was really sad because there is I'm not to spoil it too much, but there is a child. One of the actors brings their kid on the trip as well, and so there's a lot of problems with that as well.
Yeah, she's out. She's out.
Yeah, so she would. I think that would depress her a little bit, but. Climax, Gaspar in a Way is getting a 10 out of 10.
Gaspar in a Way.
Great film.
Okay, last question on this one. We'll go into your other Pretentious art house. Is he a big director? Where is he from? Is he French? Is that what he is? Or
he's French, yeah.
Is he huge over there? I mean, he's done a couple films now.
He's pretty big.
But he doesn't seem to be breaking over here. Is that fair to say? I mean, besides this very small circle of film people.
Climax is definitely his biggest movie.
But
this is definitely his
average.
big...
Your average person has not heard of these films.
No. I mean, the kinds that like do well at awards, like Cannes and like this. But like besides that, it's not like it's.
Right. Has he ever done anything that you would quote unquote say is more commercially viable, like more audience? No, he's not. That's not his thing.
His big three are this one, Enter the Void, and the one called Irreversible about a revenge story about a girl who's trying to get revenge on, I believe, her rapist. So definitely not that accessible.
Well, that sounds like it could be an Adam Sandler vehicle. Some sort.
No, definitely.
You're not going to throw Jennifer Aniston.
I actually heard he might do the next Ant-Man. Actually,
is he doing the next?
Yeah, he's doing the next Ant-Man. Yeah.
Hey, you laugh.
Yeah.
You laugh. It could happen. Ang Lee ended up doing a Hulk movie. I mean, it happens. You just never know.
Yeah, that is true.
What did you think of
Gaspar? Is pretty pretentious though, so I doubt he would. Okay. He's that guy.
Right.
He is that guy.
I'm guessing a 10 out of 10 on that. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's getting a 10.
Of course,
for sure.
Of course, it's a 10.
Not as good as Enter the Void, though.
No, that's
Close,
a 10. That's a 10 plus. That's an 11.
10 plus.
This one goes to 11. That's a Spinal Tap. We'll call that from now on. If you have something that you can't even say, it's a Spinal Tap. It's
a Spinal Tap.
It goes to 11.
Yeah.
What did you think of Viggo Mortensen and Cronenberg's A History of Violence? By the way, one of his more commercially successful films. Cronenberg never.
I can definitely tell.
I think The Fly obviously was his big one, but it was a fairly big hit and very well received by critics, and I think might have got a nomination or two. Didn't win anything. But what'd you think? By the way, for those who don't know, it's about a man and his wife and his daughter, and he just has a very simple life. And then one day there's a knock at the door, and he may or may not be a murderous hitman mob guy from the past, or he may or may not. But what'd you think?
I'm pretty split down the middle on this one. Because first of all, the only other Cronenberg movie I've seen besides this was Crimes of the Future. So, this is definitely better than Crimes of the Future.
Yes, we both did not care for Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, definitely an improvement.
I do though. On a side note, before you get into it, I do think you should explore more Cronenberg. He's a very interesting.
I think
filmmaker.
so too. I really want to see Eastern Promises because I actually watched this. I watched A History of Violence with Mom last night, and she said that she thinks that Eastern Promises is his better kind of normal Viggo Mortensen movie.
Yeah, and you should see The Fly, Scanners, the one with about the gynecologist. I can't think of it now. The twin brothers. I'll think of it. He's an interesting filmmaker. But go on. Okay,
yeah. But Viggo Mortensen was great in this, as Viggo Mortensen is. And I definitely did. The opening scene was really great. I love that oneer of the two guys who rob a motel. Is really, really interesting to watch. But just as great as all those moments were, I think there was also a lot of weakness from the supporting cast. I thought that his teenage son was kind of a little bit cliche. There's a lot of that cliche of like the bully dynamic. Getting upset at him for beating him at baseball. And so yeah, I don't have as much to say about this one. I think this was definitely a fun movie. I loved the concept, for sure, and I like the ending a lot as well. I thought that what was his name? The guy that plays his brother, Mark.
I don't remember.
Or something Hurt or something like that.
William Hurt.
Yes, William Hurt. He was really great in this too.
Academy Award.
But I think that overall, this the execution was a little bit off, and for that, I'm going to go right down the middle with a 5.
5. Okay. Yeah, I remember.
But I definitely does make me want to watch more Cronenberg, and I definitely want to check out Eastern Promises.
Yeah. All right. I remember liking History of Violence a bit more than you, but I'm such a huge Viggo and Ed Harrison and William Hurt fan that I could watch those guys. Do
those three were fantastic.
Pretty much anything. There it is. There's Jackson's not so pretentious art film corner.
Yeah.
That we will visit continuously because apparently Gaspar Noé has got more films out there to
Gaspar Noé. He does.
It is the PGN podcast, Father and Son talking movie. Next week.
Oh, wait, by the way.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but by the way, I don't know if you know this, but at the what's Tarantino's theater called again?
His
New Bev, the New Bev.
The New Bev in Hollywood, yes. Does he own
at the New Bev?
They're doing
now? I think he does. I'm pretty sure he does. Maybe I'm thinking of a different one, but I
know he goes there all the time. Yeah, it's on Beverly. I know the one.
They're doing a screening in late January of Enter the Void on 35 millimeter. If you want to come to that.
Which day did you say? January? Oh,
yeah, it's gonna be late January.
I have a hair appointment in January.
Oh, so, they're doing 3 days. They're doing 3 days.
I get my hair cut 3 times. That's what's weird. Is I have to do the first day, then the second day they fix it, and then the third day they color it. So otherwise,
look at that.
Oh gosh, I would be there so much.
So bad. Oh my god.
Actually, if it's the last day in January, I might be in Vegas taking your mom to see Adele in Vegas. Right. So yeah, right. I'll come on and review the Adele concert, and then you can review.
Death
Grips when you see them. Apparently that's a band for anyone in my generation who's listening. Jackson
really great
will
band.
Be going to
check them out.
We will do one more episode here before Jackson takes off. We'll then be on about a 2 or 3 week sabbatical. So you'll have to breathe easy. When we do come back from that sabbatical, it'll be time to talk Oscar nominations and movies that Jackson saw in Paris. I know you're all very excited about that, and I'll make sure to go out and see Plane and Megan and do all the heavy lifting here so he doesn't have to. So it will be our best movies of 2023 next week, and we're going to try to sneak in a couple of those last films. Women Talking, maybe. Living. I still got to see Till. It got some nominations, so we're going to try to see a couple more before next week. But we'll be back with our best movies of 2023 and our final thoughts of the year. But before we go, we do have one more review. We sat down separately and watched the Netflix film All Quiet on the Western Front. This is obviously based on the 1929 novel. It is So not really a remake, more of a retelling of the story that has now been. This is the third time it's been done on film. Obviously, I believe it was done back in the 40s.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was done. Well, it won the Academy Award for Best Picture. In its first
It was
iteration.
the 30s. I think it was 33 actually.
Yeah,
So it was
yeah,
even
it
earlier,
was
which
30s.
is
So it was
crazy.
very, very, very early. And then I think they did maybe a made-for-TV adaptation. I think with Richard Thomas at one point. This is
in 79.
Yeah, I don't think that was received super well. This, however, is made by German film director Edward Berger, which means this story of German soldiers is now being told from true German actors and directors' perspective. What I've read up, there were some changes from the original Academy Award-winning film, as well as the novel. The lead actor, Felix Kammerer, plays Paul. The only other actor I recognized in this was Daniel Bruhl. You guys would know him. You know him from Rush or Inglourious Bastards. He's also Baron Zemo in the Marvel Universe. He's one of the main negotiators for Germany when they're working out the armistice negotiations. It is a very graphic portrayal of war. Quite a bit of technical.
Hold on, can you hear me? You just completely cut out.
Is that the correct word, Jackson? For a lot of the battle scenes, and then a lot of very, I would say, I'll get into it, but some Saving Private Ryan moments as well. Jackson, All Quiet on the Western Front. It is most likely going to be nominated for Best Foreign Film. We talked about how it's going to be between this, Decision to Leave, and probably Argentina 1975. Is that the correct year? But what is your thoughts on this one, Jackson? All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah, so I went into this with kind of low expectations because I'm not the biggest war movie guy. There's definitely there's war movies, don't get me wrong, there's war movies that I love. I love The Deer Hunter. I love Come and See, which we'll actually talk about a little bit in a second. There's a lot of great war movies out there, but sometimes it gets a little repetitive sometimes. There's moments where I'm like, all right, well, this is
a lot of running across the fields. This is also this is coming out on the heels. I mean, just a year or so after Sam Mendes's 1917, which it was very similar to. That's obviously another World War I movie, just from different sides' perspective.
Yeah. So I was worried about this.
Okay.
I loved this movie. I loved it a lot, actually. Yeah. I thought it was. I watched this last week, and this is a case of a movie that I haven't stopped thinking about. I came down. You were watching it this morning, and I came down from upstairs while you were watching my favorite scene of the whole movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that scene. You know what I'm talking about? The one where they're I won't spoil it, but the crater scene.
Yeah, when the German soldier Paul, who's the lead, is confronted with taking the life and watching the death of a French soldier. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like this a lot for a lot of reasons. I love the cinematography. I thought it was shot beautifully. I loved it so much. I thought the performances were stellar. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't get enough of them. The guy who plays Paul was just so good.
Yeah.
And the score. I've been listening to the score on my own. It's so good.
Is that a bassoon that comes up all the time? Like there's moments where
I don't know what it was.
I was like,
but it was crazy. But
I'm like, that's a tuba or a bassoon or something. But there's that continuous horn sound from the orchestration where just just hits
that.
And I was always like, at first I thought, wow, that doesn't seem to fit with the tone, but it worked. It worked for me, and it grew on me because it just sporadically would come up.
I love that so much, and while I do think this was definitely derivative of other war movies, like I definitely saw, I mean, I know you haven't seen it, but like I said, the movie Come and See, the Russian film that also similarly follows a Russian soldier during World War II as a child and kind of going from the naivety into the, eventually shell shock and anger that comes with being in war. I felt that this was fresh enough that I was detached. I didn't even think about it until after it was over, where I was like, I was in it. I was with Paul the whole time. I was rooting for him and his friends the whole. I mean, there wasn't a single moment where I wasn't invested in their lives. And Yeah, I don't know. There was just some great scenes that all the characters felt so real, very tangible, and yeah, just a really solid film. I would not be unhappy as much as I love Decision to Leave. I would not be unhappy if this won over Decision to Leave for foreign film.
Wow. My first takeaway, I loved it also, by the way, Jackson. I thought it's a great film, deserves to be in the discussion of best films of the year. May or may not make our list, but it garners being in the discussion. Yeah. What's funny is that, obviously I'm watching it in 1917, which I loved, is still fresh in my head. It's almost as though I felt like 1917 was the clean, crisp war movie about World War I, and this one felt dirtier and grittier.
Yeah, I agree.
1917, for as wonderful it is, it was so technically. I know there was a lot of technical things, and I'm sure there were with this film as well. But there were things when I'm watching 1917 where I go, "Wow, what a marvel to shoot that." This film, it just felt dirty and darker. And some of the trench warfare, the camera work and the movement through the trenches, especially during that final battle sequence 15 minutes before the armistice, was just so intense. Geez. And then you throw the flamethrowers in there. And, it just felt grittier and more real. The 1917 felt more polished to me. Where you look at a film like Saving Private Ryan, which at its time was technically marvelous, but to me, Saving Private Ryan is an incredible battle scene for the first 20 minutes of the film, the storming of Normandy, and then a story of five guys kind of walking through Europe and and bonding, and there's little vignettes. As far as big battles, while the spectacle may not have been as huge as maybe some other war films, this one felt much more compressed, and I felt much more like I was standing next to Paul going through all this instead of being in the middle of so much chaos around me. The movie did a great job of making me feel like I was with him and moving with him. If that makes sense. You almost feel trapped in the trenches, which I thought was so great because, the scope felt smaller, but it felt more crowded in the way that I loved how it ended about talking about how, even though they started with the trenches at the same point, they only ended up going back and forth and almost never moved. Yeah. And so it felt like that a lot. Obviously this is a remake, so I don't know how original this was, but I like the ending a lot. I thought it was a really solid ending. Mm-hmm. There was just... Yeah, I really thought this was incredible. I will tell you that the endings are the same. The outcomes for all the characters are the same. The way they met their fates or survived, I won't say which, are mostly changed. So
interesting.
Where one person may have periled this way, that is not the way they went in the first film, and it may not necessarily be the way they did in the novel. So there's also, I know that this film spends a lot more time with the actual peace talks, where there's none of that in the first film. There's simply allusions to they're speaking, they're talking, we're getting word that the war might be over, they're trying to negotiate. But this film, we actually, with Daniel Bruhl's character, we actually see that, and I actually love some of the negotiating stuff.
I did too. I thought it was so smart to go from the disgusting, muddied, bloody trenches immediately into the clean, train cars with the, is this fresh? Is this croissant fresh?
The French guys are the croissants fresh enough to put on the table as we sit down to discuss if we're going to let 200,000 more men die in the next 72 hours. So an incredibly powerful war film. I just saw it this morning. It's still resonating with me, but there's no doubt that this is masterful filmmaking. I'm going to give it a very solid A.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with a tentative 8 that could change to a 9 depending on the following weeks. I'll see how it sits with me. I need a little more time with it still, I think.
Yeah, which is sometimes the case with war films in general. They tire you out.
Absolutely.
They emotionally tire you out, and sometimes you're like, oh, that was... I'm just not in the mood to do anything else with that now. But war movies do that, though. There you have it.
Yep. A good war movie does that.
A good war movie, and if you have Netflix, and it's long. I think it's about 2.5. It's pretty standard fare for an epic of this film, but does not. I don't think it outstays its welcome.
Yeah,
you know who?
And don't watch the dubbed version. Damn it!
No,
I just got to say that would be. Just don't be doing that.
That's the worst. Well,
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Suck it up.
There you have it, everybody. Another episode of the PGN podcast in the books. Jackson, you got another week here at home before you head off to France, so you and I are going to get at it. I'm very, very curious. I know your number one film of the year, but I have no idea.
Yeah, it's not.
No idea.
Yeah,
what
I have no
2
idea.
through 10 is.
I do. I did sell my Kanye West records just last week, and I did pick this up with some of the money. So if you would like to take a rewatch before our big week, I'm just gonna say it's here. If you need to refresh your memory, it's right here. We have it. It comes with a digital download code as well. So if you want to watch it on your laptop,
my son
just
is
let me know. Whatever.
holding up a copy of the
at your convenience
film, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So that may not be a surprise, but who knows? You know what? I don't know. Jackson, he might watch Spirited this week on Apple TV with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, and maybe that'll knock everything out.
From this year. The movies that I want to finish out. I want to watch. Was it Pale Blue Sky? What is it called?
The Pale Blue Sea with Christian Bale. That's
I want to watch that with Christian Bale.
Uh-huh.
I want to watch After Sun at some point.
Okay.
Even though that's not Oscar contention, I still really want to see it. I just think that would be really good.
All right.
And am I missing anything?
Women Talking.
Oh, and Empire of Light. Oh, and Women Talking. Damn, it's a lot to see, man.
Yeah, you got a busy week. Well, you can always put a little caveat. You can always come back to it and go, because you know
that's
what?
True. That is true. These lists are editable.
Remember, last year, you had Licorice Pizza as your number one film, and then a couple weeks after the year, you saw The Worst Person in the World, and you changed your list.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Right. So, I mean, the list,
that is true.
We will do our best, but the list will be, I'll tell you what, we'll reveal our top 10 list next week, and then when the Oscars come around, we'll revisit and go, did anything change?
Yeah, that's smart.
Was there one film you saw?
So, just to be clear, we're doing a top 10 best and top 10 worst, and that's it. Correct?
Yes, that is correct. And
we are including documentaries.
Documentaries are always included. Foreign films, everything's included. Yes.
Okay. Are we including comedy specials?
No. Bo Burnham will not be in.
Well, he didn't make anything. I wasn't even referencing him. I
thought you.
Did you see? Did you watch Nathaniel?
Oh, that's with J.D. Carmichael? Jared Carmichael? Is that his name?
Gerard Carmichael.
You froze up on me. You were completely frozen. If you're talking, I can't hear a word.
Yeah, you froze up on me too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I got you.
Okay, yeah. It's with Gerard Carmichael, who's hosting the Oscars.
Yeah. Oh, and he's hosting. Oh, well, maybe I hear he's funny.
I think you would like Nathaniel a lot. I think you should check that out.
Okay.
It's on HBO. It's like 45 minutes. Worth it.
All right, I'll be back next week with my review of Rothschild. What am I watching?
Rothaniel.
Rothaniel? Okay, I'll check it out if I can find the time. In the meantime, please follow my son on all major social media at Jackson N. Burns. And you can follow me on Instagram at Regan.Burns. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure to click those stars that give us 5 or 10 or 15 rated high.
I don't know if you're talking to me right now, but you've completely frozen up on me again.
I was just wrapping up the show, so.
Okay, cool.
I was just telling people to put all hate mail sent to you directly, so that you can
into my inbox. Yep. I'll take the heat.
He'll take the heat, and I will act like I knew better. Jackson, I will see you after the new year, buddy, or in 2 minutes when you come downstairs.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Peace out, everybody. Love you, buddy.
Peace. Love you too.